Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Wave Podcast here at the Culture Wave Media Network. And a special shout out to New Jersey and the boss, because we are about to talk about a movie that is very near and dear to myself and the rest of our crew here at the Culture Wave Media Network. It is Springsteen, Deliver Me from Nowhere. And we're going to jump right into it. I'm going to be one of your hosts for this episode. My name is Darian Vinny. I am joined by somebody who is in the movie as an extra. It is our very own Vinny Albano.
Hello.
Vinny, how are you doing?
I'm doing good today. I just saw Springsteen. I'm literally right off of coming out the theater.
Okay, so it's fresh on the mind for you.
It definitely is fresh on the minds. However, I do have a lot of mixed thoughts because I don't think this is far from being a great film.
Okay, all right, fair. So I am excited to have a full-blown conversation. For the context for the people who, again, may not know this, Culture Wave is housed in a town called Howell, New Jersey, which is about 15, 20 minutes from Freehold, New Jersey, which is where you are from.
Yeah, it's my hometown.
It is your hometown, and it is also Bruce Springsteen's hometown.
Yeah.
So there's a very close connection to the aura and the superstar that is Bruce Springsteen on an even different level. I'm wearing my See Here Now shirt, which is a music festival at Asbury Park that I've gone to for a number of years now. And Bruce was the headliner last year, and I got to see him perform for the first time live in Asbury Park, which was a crazy experience. Asbury Park also plays a major role in this movie. But taking the Jersey out of it, let's get into the movie, because there is a lot to talk about with it. It's one that is a part of this trend in Hollywood, which some can look at it as unfortunate, some can just look at it as an opportune time, obviously, where a lot of the legendary, iconic musicians are getting movies based on their lives and based on moments in their life and their careers. And this has been happening for a number of years now, but I really think it hit an apex when Bohemian Rhapsody was nominated for Best Picture, and it was nominated for, I think, like 7 Academy Awards, winning a few. Rami Malek obviously winning for playing Freddie Mercury. And then things just kind of started to like dovetail after that. Like we had the Amy Winehouse documentary, which Megan and Liz covered on the channel. We had the Bob Dylan biopic last year with Timothée Chalamet that also filmed a lot in New Jersey that we talked about last year. And so there was a lot riding on this movie because Bruce is such a legendary and iconic performer in general. I mean, again, people refer to him just as Bruce, and you know who he is. You know, and this movie originally was called Deliver Me from Nowhere, based on the book, because it's an adaptation. They put Springsteen in front of it because that name is so synonymous, obviously, in rock and roll and in music in general. But yeah, there's a lot to talk about with it. So without giving away spoilers, because the movie just came out this past weekend, but I'm sure if you're watching this, you've seen the movie. And if you're a New Jersey native, I'm sure you've seen it or you're going to be seeing it at some point this week. Vinny, what are your non-spoiler thoughts, takeaways fresh off Springsteen Deliver Me from Nowhere?
Okay. So I think that the cast all around the board, they do a great job. I don't think the film is technically a failure by any means. I mean, on a technical level, this is great filmmaking. It looks great. Cast is great. Everything is great. Aside from the script. And the script has some major issues. And to avoid spoilers, the best way I can summarize this is that the movie focuses a lot on the creative process, which I think is the best part of the film. I actually think the best parts of the film are when we're in these silent rooms with the characters and we're just in the thought process of Bruce making the Nebraska album, recording his demos, and so forth, right? Sitting down, writing these lines, going back, editing the lines. And in those moments, we see his train of thought. We see it. Then there are moments of the film where all of a sudden we're not seeing anymore, and they just want to explain through other characters what Bruce is feeling. And that really ruined the movie for me. When we have a character talking to his wife, who his wife doesn't even like barely has any lines of dialogue. I don't even know who she is. And just explaining, oh, Bruce is feeling this, Bruce is feeling that. And it's not even coming from Bruce. And it very obviously was written as like, oh, audiences might not understand, so we have to force feed them to understand. And it felt extreme. It honestly just ruined the movie for me. On top of that, the first half of the film, like I said, is very intimate. It focuses on relationships within Bruce's life as well as the creative process, and I think that was the best part. And then we get to a certain point in the film where nothing is really changing. Now, that might have been intentional because a lot of the film focuses around the mental depression that Bruce is facing during this time of his life. So that lack of change might be intentional, but I don't think it makes for a great movie. That's my broad.
Yeah, so I think that's a great way to summarize it. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
I agree with a lot of what you're saying, which I think is unfortunate as a fan of obviously our roots and as a natural born Bruce Springsteen fan. I think that this movie has a hard time in general with the direction of where they wanted to go. And so you talk about it in terms of the script, which obviously the script plays a part in that, but this movie is written and directed by the same person. It's Scott Cooper. And I do, after I get through my broad thoughts, I'd love to hear your thoughts on him as a filmmaker and if you've seen any of his other work, because I've seen a number of his films. But for me, I've explained it to the few people that have asked me just kind of coming out of the theater, like, what is your reaction to it? I said, this is Bruce Springsteen, the diary journal, or the diary dash making of Nebraska. Because this movie has a lot of ideas in terms of what they want to tell. And I don't know if they had a natural direction in which they wanted to stick with one thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't read the book Deliver Me From Nowhere. But even in terms of the marketing of this movie, I think it's just so interesting because for a long time, the movie was just called Deliver Me From Nowhere. Like, that's what the movie was. It wasn't until I think that first trailer came out where you hear Bruce Springsteen music, and there's Jeremy Allen White, who looks obviously a lot like Bruce Springsteen. But you have no sense of the movie actually being about Bruce Springsteen. And if you're not from New Jersey and you don't understand the referential aspects of it from where we're from, you don't get that in the first trailer. You don't get that in the marketing of this movie. You don't get that in anything. So they decide to add Springsteen in the front of the title of the film. But this movie isn't necessarily really about Bruce. And I think that that's a very interesting approach. It is obviously about a point in time in his life. It deals a lot with depression and mental illness. It deals with the struggle of family and finding yourself within that. But where I think that the A Complete Unknown kind of was the perfect mixture of giving us the greatest moments from Bob Dylan's musical career while also dealing with his artistry and what it meant for him to be an artist struggling with fame. You don't really get that to the fullest extent with this movie. And I think that, like you said, the writing and the directing, just I guess the direction they decided to go in with this movie is something that you wouldn't even think. Like if I was somebody going into a pitch meeting and I was like, let's make a movie about Bruce Springsteen. This is probably not in my top 5 ideas of how you would make a movie surrounding the boss, you know?
Yeah.
And Nebraska obviously is a very sentimental album to him. You see it throughout the movie. It's a album that obviously broke down barriers for the music industry, and just it was an obvious pivot in his life where it's kind of the opposite of A Complete Unknown, where it's like seeing Dylan go electric. It's the exact opposite with what Bruce is doing, kind of not capitalizing on fame and instead being like, no, I'm going to make a stripped down album with like acoustics and echoing and like a shitty record off of a cassette tape that is eventually going to become this larger thing. And the unfortunate reality with that is that I think that it's hard to give that to all audiences because not everybody is going to be on board for that. Like when they want to go and see a movie about Bruce Springsteen, it's almost like there's other things that we can tackle. And I don't know if you said this while we were recording just now or before we started recording. It's almost the question of like, who is this movie made for?
Yeah.
You know, because that's the real question is like, is it for Bruce diehards? because the book only tells, again, this like 2-year chapter of his life, you know? And so you're left with a lot more, I left the movie actually more intrigued and curious about Bruce, but again, leaving kind of feeling like, oh, I'm a bit let down by what we got in the finished product. Did you feel similar to that?
Yeah, I feel like that would be a good way of putting it. I just feel like what you described of how this film has a lack of direction. It has all these ideas, but doesn't capitalize on any of them to its fullest. So you can't really say that it's making a point anywhere. And because of that, that's where that feeling comes from, right? We have a dynamic with his father. We have a dynamic with his mother. We have a dynamic with his romantic interests. We have a dynamic with himself. We have a dynamic with all these people. And I feel like every single one of them is underdeveloped, unfortunately. So I do feel similar. Yeah, because if I didn't know anything about Bruce Springsteen, I would probably go into this movie and be like, oh, wow, I still don't know anything about Bruce Springsteen. Yeah. And that's where the mental where I have to mentally divide the two. Because as a person growing up, I'm from Freehold. Like, I know a lot about Springsteen. And, he's been around the town for for as long as I've known. So it's, you know what I mean? Like I know of this guy. He's also like, everyone knows of Springsteen. He's huge. He's an American icon. So everyone knows of him. If we strip that away, the movie has no foundation.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I love that you brought up, you used the word underdeveloped.
Yeah.
One of the strengths, and you did say this in your beginning part, I guess, intro. The crazy thing is that I do think the best part of this movie is the performances, which are levied by how strong the acting is in this movie, because there are a lot of great actors in this movie. Jeremy Allen White, best known, obviously, for playing Carmy in The Bear and playing Lip in Shameless. He gets his chance to lead a movie, a big movie, a studio movie that probably has something close to $100 million budget. Maybe it's less than that. Probably is a little bit less than that. But he is playing, like you said, an American icon and a musician that is often regarded as one of the best of our generation. He does a great job with the lack of a script and the lack of kind of what they're asking him to do is kind of just be meditative and kind of be very internal. Jeremy Allen White's pretty good at doing that in general, and it just so happens that he also trained musically for this movie, and his singing is great in it. And he's just a great actor in general. You brought up, I think before we started recording, Jeremy Strong in this movie. I actually think is probably the best part of the movie, which is crazy because, like you said, there's a lot of exposition dumping from his character, John Landau, who is a very significant and important person in Bruce's life. And he does a great job with the material he gets. Paul Walter Hauser adds some nice humor to it, playing the guitar tech. Stephen Graham plays his father. I think does great work throughout the whole movie, but especially when we get to the later scenes and the ending of the movie, which actually did ironically strike me harder than almost anything else that I had seen previously in the movie. Odessa Young does a great job. Like, there's countless people in this movie that I could point to and be like, they did a great job, despite the fact that, yes, plot-wise, you don't know what you're following. And like you said, if you don't have the context going into it about Bruce Springsteen, then it's not going to do much for you. Like, there are moments, my friend described it as the Leonardo DiCaprio meme from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where you're pointing at the screen as if you know what's happening. And there's so many moments, especially for you, I'm sure, growing up in Freehold, where you're like, that's a street that I'm on all the time. That's a corner store that they dressed for the period. Yeah. And Asbury, especially, like, I go out in Asbury all the time. We actually shot our Culture Wave promo video on the exact same boardwalk that they film all these scenes on. Same boardwalk that James Gandolfini walked on The Sopranos. So there's the significance of the Jersey element to it. But it is sad because, again, it's like, I don't know what they were going for entirely with this. And I listened to a podcast earlier today coming out of the screening to hear their thoughts. And one of the people on the panel had read the book. And she was saying, she was like, she's like, it's even harder knowing the book because there's so many good things they left out of the book. Like a significant, I don't know if you knew this or not, because again, you said you've known a lot of Springsteen things. But so John Landau, Jeremy Strong's character, was a music critic first. And then came into Bruce's life, and that's why it was so significant for him to be able to understand what he was trying to do. And he acted again as that pseudo kind of like talking to David Krumholtz's character, like, there's nothing we can do. This is what he's going to do, and I'm going to support him as an artist, and I'm going to support him as a friend, and I'm going to support him as a manager. But there's like that special relationship that we don't even get an intro to John Landau, like we're just supposed to know who that is.
Yeah.
As soon as the movie opens. And it's like those moments are not moments that it's like that kind of stuff isn't treating the audience in a stupid way. It's like, no, we actually need the context of why is this person important to Bruce? We obviously see it in scenes. Like there's a scene where they're sitting in Bruce's bedroom after they finally decide they're going to release Nebraska, and they hold hands for a moment. Like it's and they got their Bruce has his hand on John's shoulder and John's got his hand on his knee, and it's an important structural relationship to working relationship that helped Bruce Springsteen get through a certain point in his life where he was incredibly depressed. But you not having the context to those moments takes away entirely from the whole dynamic of the narrative.
Yeah, I think that's very well put, because then again, right, you could have, and I get where you're coming from, because it's not that we want the film to spoon feed us, because we don't, right? I even complained that there are moments of spoon feeding about internal conflict within these characters that was completely not needed, and it ruined it for me. And it's not that we need like an epic scene at the very beginning of the movie. This is John Landau, right? He's my great manager. Love him. Right? Blah, blah, blah. So we don't need that. It's just that I agree, though, we need some more meat to chew on, because there's no meat there. Yeah. And matter of fact, I actually was speculating throughout the whole film that I thought something bad was going to happen with John's character. I thought, that he was going to get like betrayed in a way or something, which feels wrong that I was feeling that way. Now coming out of the end of the film, it's like, okay, they obviously did something wrong setting up his character at the beginning with such kind of mystique. Why did I feel that way? Yeah. You know what I mean? That I shouldn't be feeling that way now coming out of the film, when obviously that didn't happen, and he was actually a very supportive character to Bruce. So there was something wrong there with the presentation of a lot of these characters. And while we're kind of on the topic of this, not to move on from John, but just to talk about everybody else, the film is very intimate, but I also feel that they could have went bigger. Like that, Steve Van Zandt, the rest of the band, doesn't get a single line of dialogue.
I thought the same thing.
And that, for me, is really just weird, knowing how much
what we know.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, like the band is second. But they are just as important as Bruce. Yeah. You know what I mean? Now, it might be a Jersey thing where like everyone knows Steve Van Zandt, but it was just very odd to me that a lot of the film has these moments of creative process and is very intriguing, and that those are the best scenes in my opinion, when he's revising and kind of showing you what it is to be an artist, but we never get insight from the other artists that are collaborating on this, and we just see them, not a single line of dialogue. It's very weird that a lot of these characters are in it, but they're just their faces.
You know what else is crazy about that? And I agree with you, by the way. You're talking about how we don't get the context, or I guess the added sort of support from the other musicians or the other people that might know Bruce on a deeper level or things like that. The other part is that we don't even really get it from Bruce himself.
Yeah.
We get it through the music. And this is from a review I saw online. It's a great way of putting it. It's a movie about a depressed 32-year-old man who is haunted by his unresolved childhood trauma and suffering from depression that he knows how to sing about, but lacks the words to diagnose. And it almost feels like there are these moments in the movie where there's a number of them. It's not like it only happens once or twice, which it would happen in other typical movies, where he's just looking out at the horizon and he's just sitting there in silence and he doesn't know how to diagnose it. And like, there's moments even again where he's like sitting on his couch and watching Badlands. And like that plays a part in like why it's influential to like what he's doing with, but like what why, like we just see him doing research about it, but there's no words spoken from Bruce Springsteen to get a deeper sense of why, like why is he feeling this way? Like, and you get it in those flashback sequences, but even the way that the way that is set up and the way it is placed throughout the movie, I think is again an unfortunate lackluster effort in terms of the way that the direction was made with this movie. It's a very awkward movie structurally.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if that's like intentional, because Nebraska also feels like that, but it's what you were saying before. It's like the unfortunate reality is that doesn't work as a movie. It's a good idea. It's a bold swing. Like, I remember hearing when they were going to make this movie, it's like, oh, it's not a typical biopic, which is cool because you don't want to see the same thing recycled over and over. But then it's like, we're just going to focus on this one specific album, this one point in Bruce's life. It's like, okay. Because then you get a different movie with a scene where you see Bruce singing Born in the USA, right? That's an entirely different feel than what we get for like 90% of the rest of the movie. And even the flashback sequences, it's like, Bruce as a kid doesn't speak much at all, really. If ever, right? He says, "Daddy, it's time to go now." I don't think he says anything in the movie theater sequence when he tells him, I don't like to fight. But like, other than that, we don't get a lot of, we don't get into the actual inner mind of Bruce Springsteen. So if you're going to present something that feels more meditative and it's going to be about the subject and his thought process in particular, I think it's important to kind of allow those thoughts to kind of come to fruition. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, I'm actually gonna slightly disagree with you, because I agree with you, but I also slightly disagree. I think it's more of a different conclusion, because the moments when he's researching Badlands and he's revising his lines and he's changing the third person in the lyrics to the first person, that is like my favorite part. I was like, wow, this is great. This is like, we're seeing what it means to be an artist. We're seeing the thought process of Bruce without it being force-fed. And, it's all show, don't tell. And it's very intriguing. But for me, I agree with you on the sentiment. But I believe that it came from the lack thereof of executing that. They lay it down at the beginning of the film and then they don't go anywhere with it, right? So it's just like, there needs to be you pointed to the structure, which I think is the reason for this, is that structurally it feels very off, and there needed to be at least 2 or 3 story beats in the second half of the film that just don't happen. There needed to be a punch somewhere. Like a second, I forget the name, I haven't in screenwriting, but regardless, right? In a typical story structure, you usually have the midpoint, and then there's another like plot twist between the second and between the midpoint and the very end of the film. But I don't really get that here, and even if it was there, it just didn't feel like enough. It felt very muted. It felt very muted. So I wish I had more to say.
No, I know. You talked about the underdevelopment too, and I want to talk about that with a couple characters in particular. So there's a character that in the movie we just know him as Matt. It's Matt Delia, I believe, or Delia. It's the name on IMDb. He's played by Harrison's son Gilbertson. And it's very obvious in the beginning that he's somebody that has known Bruce for a very long time, and he's a very close friend, and he's been there for him through thick and thin, and they've been friends since they were kids. I think Bruce might even have a line about that. And there's a sequence towards the end of the movie where Bruce decides that he's going to move finally from his hometown roots of New Jersey to go to California because he feels like he needs to do something for himself. Well, ironically, he doesn't do it himself. He does it with this character, Matt. But there's no connection with that character on a deeper level. We just see that he cares about him. We see that he is basically transporting him from New Jersey to California. There's no words spoken in the 5 minutes that we see him moving from Jersey to California that shows that what he means to Bruce. Why is he in the movie?
Yeah.
Like, what is that character? And even in that last moment before he departs after driving all the way and dropping Bruce off, he says like, "Hey, Bruce," and they just look at each other and he just says nothing. And then he walks out of the room.
Yeah.
And it's like that exact feeling in that scene is what you have for like 95% of this movie, because you're just like, okay. I feel like there was supposed to be something more there that we didn't get.
Yeah.
And so that's one character. Another one, this I'm curious on your thoughts on this, because this is part of the thing that I think is hard to do in movies in general, especially about famous people and things like that. But it bothers me, I think, a little bit more in the context of this film, because we're talking about a specific point in time. Odessa Young plays his love interest in this movie, Faye Romano. I think she actually does a really good job. I haven't seen her in much other stuff. Really like what she's able to do with the material she has. She is an amalgamation of multiple people in Bruce's life.
Yeah.
That's hard, because you're levying so much of his emotional vulnerability as a character and as an artist, and his struggle with understanding what it is to be human and being taken away from the stardom, which he's obviously struggling with her character, to then after the movie find out that she's not based on a single person. That's a conflict for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's like, okay, so then that would also be a big part of his driving factor, would it not? It's not that he's leaving one woman behind. It's that he doesn't know who to be with. He doesn't know if he can stick around for anybody. He doesn't know if he can pick and choose between multiple people or multiple women. And you get one line when he comes out of the pony where he's like, "I'm kind of seeing somebody else right now." You get no context to who that is. And then it's like, is that a lie? Is it because he wants to, like, you know what I mean? So I'm curious your thoughts on like those two characters in particular too, because like those are supposed to be very important non-musical people in Bruce's life.
Sure.
That kind of get relegated to, again, being underdeveloped characters in general.
I really like her in the film. I love her performance. I love the moments she's given. Although, again, she's boiled down to this formulaic biopic romance trope where take any romantic lead in all these musical biopics, even the Bob Dylan one. It's the same character. It's the same exact character.
Yeah.
Even to like the lines of dialogue being nearly word to word the same throughout Bohemian Rhapsody, throughout this film, through A Complete Unknown, etc., etc. Same exact character, and that's what really gets to me, honestly. For me, if she was based off a real person or if she was not, like in this, where she's an amalgamation of people, that doesn't really personally bother me, right? Just for all I care, she could have been completely fictional. But it's just the fact that, again, the actress does a great job for what she's given, but what we're given is not a lot, and it's just very bare bones trope. Like, here's the romance. Oh, guess what? It didn't go anywhere. And then on top of that, God, I lost my train of thought, honestly. I'm going to pass it back.
Okay. So I have another thought, because you talked about you used the word trope.
Yes.
I think the unfortunate and honestly crazy thing about this movie is that even though it is pitching itself literally, and the finished product is an unconventional biopic where it's taking a chapter of Bruce Springsteen's life, one that is not very talked about, one that is not in the lexicon of all people that know Bruce Springsteen and his legacy. and tackling that as the plot line for a 2-hour film about this guy that is still filled with cliche.
Yeah.
That is one of the craziest parts to me that leaves me disappointed and let down by the finished product, because it just feels like there's so much that, again, could have been handled in a different way. And it's almost like seriously, did they know what story they wanted to tell? You know, because there are so many plates that they're spinning at the same time that are underdeveloped, and it doesn't give you that sense of gratification or fulfillment by any one particular story, even the boss himself. Like, even by the time you walk out of the movie, you're like, Bruce is a great musician. He's a great writer.
Yeah.
We already knew that. And it's like, why is the movie made if we're not going to be able to walk out and feel or learn or understand something different about the artist and what made him who he is? You know?
Yeah. So I actually do remember my train of thought. And it piggybacks off of exactly what you said here. I'm very curious what was cut from this film. What was cut? You know, you mentioned the line of dialogue. Is he lying? Is he not? About, I'm seeing someone right now. What was cut from this film? I also noticed in the flashback sequences, young Bruce, when he's singing about the song Mansion, I believe, Mansion on the Hill, there's a flashback sequence to that mansion that inspires that film, and young Bruce is playing with a young girl. And it feels very important. And I realized, who the hell was that? Who was that?
Oh, like the little girl? It's a good point. Now, I think the assumption is that it's his sister, but she's nowhere to be found or seen throughout any of the rest of the movie.
Yeah, I thought it was a sister, and I was like, wait, I'm not sure. Does Bruce have a sister? And then if so, why is that so much of the film is felt on the parent dynamic, right? That's the family. Where is the sister?
Yeah,
because it seems like the sister in that scene. Yeah, I don't know. That was a very odd.
Well, there's a lot of awkward sequences like that in the movie where it just kind of just plops you in a moment in time, and it makes, like, even so. One of the things that I want to credit the movie for doing, it is a dark movie. Ironically, it's a movie that deals with a lot of darker themes. It deals with depression. It deals with mental illness. As someone who deals with mental health issues, as many people in the world probably do, it is definitely an important topic and conversation to have. And it is a bold swing to focus on that in a movie that is supposed to be a musical biopic about one of the greatest musicians of our time. Having said that, it becomes less of an important conversation when you don't have much to say.
Yes.
You know? And it's not to say that what he dealt with or what he currently still deals with, because you see the title card at the end, it's still something that Bruce Springsteen deals with, even at his age, through all his fame and celebrity, and he needed help from people that cared about him to get to where he got to. But it doesn't have much of, again, a message. There's not anything you walk away from this movie feeling or saying, oh, I understand what they were going for here, because you really don't. You don't know. Like you said, it's a movie about the creative process at times, but at other times it's about a lot of other things that don't come together for a complete overall message. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe you disagree, but that's kind of how I feel.
No, you put it perfectly. I agree with that.
Yeah. So, having said all of that, I don't know if there's much else to talk about in regard to the movie, unless there's something specific you can think of.
Not particularly. You know, I was an extra for the Stone Pony scene. I didn't see myself. I don't know if I made the cut or not.
Was it for one Stone Pony scene or for multiple?
It was for one.
Okay.
It was when he's walking out, talking with Faye for the first time. But I did see my friend John, and I saw my friend Joe and Aiden. So that's cool. And also my last thought, because these are all just random thoughts. This has nothing to do with, like, honestly,
who cares? Who cares?
Get that pacifier out that grown child's mouth, bro. Dude, there was a scene where the Haley, right? Faye's what is presumed to be
it's her daughter.
Her daughter, yes. Yeah. That is a grown child. That child is running around in the amusement, which doesn't really exist anymore, but it's carousel in Asbury. Running around the carousel in Asbury. and there's a scene where she's sleeping on Faye's lap with a pacifier in the mouth, and I'm like, that what?
That's
She
like
is
a- it's
she
like a
is way
6-year-old.
too old for that.
It's like a 6-year-old.
Yeah,
I didn't pick up on that, but you are right. That is 100% accurate.
yeah.
That's so funny. Vinny is not the only member of the Culture Wave crew that was an extra in the movie. Megan Krantz
Yes.
also was an extra. I believe she was at the Born to Run scene, right?
She was at the Cincinnati opening sequence.
Yes.
And the Stone Pony
scene.
scene.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also, I can't confirm this, but one of my former students, Hannah, if you're watching this, pretty sure she's in the front row of the first Stone Pony scene
Oh wow.
in the concert. It looked exactly like hers. If it wasn't her, she's got a doppelganger. But again, she's from this area, so again, it's a movie that it has very obvious direct correlations to like my upbringing in New Jersey, clearly your upbringing in New Jersey. And so for me, that gets a couple of nostalgia moments and nostalgia berries to kind of up my score a little bit, which again, I come from it from a biased perspective. Having said that, I really wanted more from this movie, and I'm upset to say that having come out of it. I would love to see what they cut out of it. I'm looking forward to still buying it on Blu-ray and kind of seeing the behind the scenes of this movie and the making of it, the special features, and hear from Bruce about these moments, because I think we need more of that context. But last thing I want to say, a couple things actually before we wrap up. One, this was a movie that, especially because of the Bob Dylan film and Bohemian Rhapsody, people were like, can this garner nominations? Can this be an awards movie? We talked a little bit about the performances, but the script is obviously one that the script is being elevated because of the acting in the movie. Do you think, in particular, the two names that have been thrown around a lot right now are Jeremy Allen White and Jeremy Strong for their performances? Do you think either of them garner consideration or potentially a nomination for the Academy Awards for this movie?
Honestly, I'm a huge Jeremy Allen White fan. I love that guy. And I loved him on The Bear. Love Carmi Berzotto as a character. Jeremy Strong is also an incredible actor. Jeremy Strong is definitely not getting a nom. If he is, I don't think there's not enough here. Like, you know what I mean? So I don't think he should be nominated. And honestly, if Jeremy gets nominated, I'll be happy, right? Like, great actor. He did good what he has here. But unfortunately, I still don't think it's enough for a nomination.
I agree. I think that I actually was seeing stronger buzz for Strong, and I do think they're both good in the movie. But I do think that if one of them does get a nomination, I do think it'll be Jeremy Allen White.
Yeah.
But it's a tough year. I mean, Zach and I were talking recently about how any other year Daniel Day-Lewis is almost guaranteed a nomination. And Anemone, I think, is a good movie. It's not a great movie, but he's terrific in it. Obviously, he's terrific in everything he does.
Yeah.
I don't even think he's in consideration for that film. So I would find it hard to believe that either of them garner nominations. And the last thing before we get into scores, because I mentioned this at the top, Scott Cooper as a storyteller. Have you seen any of his other movies, and what are your thoughts? Because the only film I haven't, well, there's a few I haven't seen from him, but like his most praised movie is his directorial debut, which he directed an Oscar winner in another musical film that is original, Crazy Heart with Jeff Bridges, which I've never seen. I don't know if you've seen it, but some of his other movies, very hit and miss for me. So like, I really, really love Black Mass. I'm also a huge gangster movie fan, so it sticks out to me. I like Hostiles. I like Ideas of Out of the Furnace. But he's a little like, I don't know, there's aspects of his filmmaking that aren't as strong to me. And I'm like James Mangold directing A Complete Unknown, I think it added a little bit more to that movie, even the way that it was shot and the way that the story kind of unfolded. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on him as a filmmaker and if you've seen any of his other work.
So unfortunately, I cannot comment because this is the only Scott Cooper film I've ever seen.
Okay. So we're going to have to get on that.
Yeah.
He's got some movies in this film. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is his 7th movie that he's directed.
Wow, that's pretty great. Yeah. I want to see Black Mass really bad because that's been a film that's been on my list for a long time, and I've heard very good things.
Yeah, I really like that movie. But at this point, it's time for scores, as we do at the end of our reviews. So Would you like me to start, or do you want to start, maybe?
Yeah, could you start?
Yes, I could start. I could set the tone here. So, again, I've been saying it throughout the review. I really wanted to love this movie. I came out liking this movie. I came out wanting to revisit it, seeing if it affects me in a different way, watching it a second time. I like ideas of what this movie tries to do, but wholly, I don't know if it amalgamates to a complete film. I don't know if it has a lot of good ideas, but does it come together for a full-fledged narrative? I'm not exactly sure, but it's far from being bad. So I'm not going to give it that. I even think it's obviously better than mid, but I'm going to give it a score of a 6. I have a 6 for Springsteen Deliver Me From Nowhere. What about you, Vinny?
Yeah, I am very similar. I was actually going to give it a 6, but I'm going to go a little lower than that. I said my thoughts, 5.5.
5.5. Okay. So that is where we're at with Springsteen Deliver Me From Nowhere. Let us know, what do you guys think about the movie? Or do you guys love it? There are some, it's a divisive movie so far from what I've seen. Some people really love the movie and the exploration of this point in time in Bruce Springsteen's life. Other people might be on the same page as Vinny and I. They might have been a little underwhelmed by it. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to have a conversation with you guys. Give this video a like and subscribe to us here at the Culture Wave Media Network. We have tons of reviews up for a bunch of other things on the YouTube channel right now. We just did a review for Begonia. That's on the channel. We have a review upcoming, if it's not already on there, for Train Dreams, coming on Netflix at the end of November. We have reviews upcoming for Wake Up Dead Man. We have reviews upcoming for other films like A House of Dynamite. We just wrapped up our coverage of Peacemaker and Task. So there's a bunch of stuff on the channel for you guys to check out. And you guys can also follow us on social media if you guys don't already. All that stuff is below me in the video, and it's also in our YouTube description. Just signing off, I'm Darian Scalamoni.
And I'm Vinny Albano.
And we'll see you guys next time.
This is The Culture.